I was offended recently on an international flight in business class that like I literally was like I went to like log in for Wi-Fi and they're like $19.99.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I can afford $20, but I was like, that's not the fucking point. How do I not have Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to nickel and dime me for Wi-Fi?
American likes to charge you heavy for the Wi-Fi. You're always just like,
it's those little things.
I can't go without my phone, but
well, I can't justify this right now.
Yeah, it is those little things. Like I had a guy. By the way, are we rolling? I had a guy come to me years ago. So like I never charged for water at any of my restaurants.
Yeah.
I used to. You'd come in. I'd had this guy who was like a regular, and he'd always bring in like 10 dudes, and they bring all these crazy wines. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And one night, after he'd been in like 20 times, he pulls me aside and he goes, Phillip, look at my bill. It's this fucking long. You got coffee, tea, water, soda. He's like, I have no problem spending $10,000 here. I don't want to fucking pay $3 for a water. I don't want to pay $6 for a fucking tea. Raise your price $8. Raise your price $100. I don't care, but don't fucking charge me for those things. And it actually made so much sense. Like when you go to a place and it's like 27 cents for fucking extra sauce, and it's like, dude, just fucking make the dish 10 cents more.
Or you stay in like a nice expensive hotel and they're like charging you, $10 for the Coca-Cola in there. It's not even in a glass bottle. The candies are still like the same crap candies. They could have like given you something better. And cake $50. Exactly. Throw an extra like whatever you want into your price of the room. And then you don't feel like you're being nickel and dimed.
I do feel though that the pendulum is going to, it's already begun to swing back, because now you're staying at some place and they have nice water and it's complimentary.
Yeah.
Or like, so I feel like the days of completely just like taking advantage of and almost dehumanizing the customer, we're going to go back to that. I hope
so too. It might take longer though, because you have like all the people who are building businesses selling them to those businesses.
That's the problem.
So it's like good for 6 months, 12 months, and then the giant just buys that business up, and
I guess if
right back into it.
If private equity buys all of them,
like
if private equity buys all of them, then they can just be like, oh, we're taking away the free X from all of them, and then there's no more competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was hoping.
Unfortunately, the way it seems right now, but if people stop selling their good businesses to the evil empire, then they could actually have a lasting impact.
Well, I don't plan on selling to the evil empire, so free waters, people.
Free water for
all. Let's go.
Well, dude, thank you so much for being here. We only recently met each other, but I've been following your career for a while. I'm a poker player. We met playing cards, and number one on the all-time money list.
That's
fucking
wild.
insane, like insane. And I would love to sort of get into like, how did you even get into poker? Like, because it's one of the things that I actually like, even when I'm just like sitting at a random table playing with people. I like to be like, how did you get into this? Like, what was but like for however you got in to get all the way to the top is very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, I think it starts like way earlier of like the path that gets set out before, where like at 1.5 years old, my parents are showing me baseball cards and I'm memorizing name and position of like 50 different cards. So already they're like training my memory, which, as we go later into the story, I have such a good memory. It has helped me so much to get to number one all-time poker player. So you've got to like almost take the things and, if you get to the next step, it's like, there's 4 boys in my house. My dad is very good at games and very competitive. And I think he also just had in his mind that he just wasn't going to let anyone win. And I think that's a good approach, because if you let someone win, it just makes it easy for them. They have to like earn it, and fight for it. Where, I think it was, 18. It was like I was 18 maybe or 16 the first time I beat my dad at chess, and he would win every game that we were playing of like Risk.
Yeah.
And even my mom would tell him like, why not let your sons win? And
He's
he
like,
just,
fuck that.
exactly. And it gives you like this drive to win, and also to have to put in the effort to win that's necessary, because things just, they don't come overnight. They're not easy, to become #1 all-time poker player. It's like a whole journey of, a 20-year poker career before that. Then after we get into that, it's like playing Magic the Gathering at, maybe I was 13 to 16. I played a lot of Magic the Gathering, and, just, I had this mind that I liked to, I guess, call it like solve puzzles. And it was like a solving puzzle kind of like card game. So it's interactive and fun. I think Magic was the best game that anyone's ever built.
Okay.
Other than like a deck of cards and poker. I've got to give poker #1.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, of something that's, the only things you could really compare it to Magic is like a Yu-Gi-Oh or a Pokemon, but Yu-Gi-Oh I think had some competitive like game going, but it wasn't so like deep and intricate as Magic was, like a whole world and like subsets of like, you would draft in one format, you would build your own deck and show up with it in like another format. There were a lot of very good players who played it. So it's like, I loved Magic. I don't know. It was a perfect game too. So I loved that and put most of my free time or thought into it, where then I would go play on the weekend, every weekend, like Friday Night Magic, or in New York City, I'd take the train, or my mom would drive me sometimes like 1 to 5 hours, like in different competitions.
Damn.
Like we flew to Florida. I flew to.
So you're playing competitively.
Yeah, to San Diego at 15. I was #1 in the world, 15 and under in Magic the Gathering.
Oh shit,
dude!
That's wild, because we had Doug on the podcast, and he was like #2 or 3 in Warcraft.
Oh, I didn't know that he was so good at that.
Yeah, and that I obviously I draw a correlation between like, the fact that like both of you guys were the best at some sort of strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, but another friend was telling me, who's from Singapore, he told me that in like the 80s or so, two hedge fund guys, they made a bet. And the bet was like whose team would perform better, like that they would both train their teams. And one guy brought on a bunch of guys who had already traded before, and the other guy just picked up a bunch of like Magic, Dungeons and Dragons strategy guys who knew nothing about trading.
And they probably crushed.
And at the end, the only successful traders were the guys who knew nothing.
Yeah.
The like, that knew something else, knew how to solve problems. They didn't have, and I even like in poker, I put so much into poker, but I saw it myself as like something easy that you could win at if you, care or you put in effort. So I would, as you get friends along, you try to like teach them a bit how to play. But I've learned in my own experience, if someone thinks that they know something already, a lot of times there's not really much you could do for them. They're just like stuck in their way of thinking. So it's like, the traders were already sure that they knew something about trading, but what they knew was wrong already, and they were unwilling to rewrite. I think in my own, journey and career, that's been such an important thing, being willing to be wrong and to rewrite the way that you're thinking. Not even rewrite sometimes, because sometimes it's just evolve as the game evolves. If people start playing more aggressive as people change their own strategy, if your strategy is meant to be one that beats theirs, yours is always changing as well. So you might not even be wrong, you just have to be willing to phase out of one way of thinking and into another to stay at the top of a game that's really always changing. Like poker's always changed, and I think a lot of people have, they get an ego that they know something, an idea that they're sure about this, and that keeps you like kind of stuck in like a certain way of being or thinking, where life is incredible, where it's like the only thing you could really be sure of is that you don't know much of anything, that you're in this incredible learning experience where the information is just infinite. Even just things apart from playing poker. You could study poker and it's so deep. You could never study so much poker that you know how to play every spot perfectly, because there are so many intrinsic spots inside of those spots at different stages of tournaments versus different players with different stack sizes, how big the buy-in is, how does this guy feel today? And all these things are always changing. So it's like setting yourself up with all this information and then solving problems on the fly, saying like, you know, okay, you put things together. And you know, that's what I've loved poker because of that, because it's so deep. And it's, you know, even as they try to tell it as, you know, a game that you have to study and that is like solved, I completely disagree. And like, absolutely, the more information that you can gain and have in like your bag of tricks, because that's kind of what it is. You're solving a problem. So, you know, and there's not always one right answer. You could see something, and I've, you know, and it happens a lot, and you think, you know, this one thing is clear, but maybe there are reasons behind that it actually changes, you know, this, and there might be a few different routes that you could take, which I think why poker's best game also, because you know, you can build a strategy inside of the way that you want to play, and you feel like some people are just, you know, risk averse people. They're never going to play this maniac approach of like super aggressive at poker, and you don't have to. You can build this solid style of playing good cards. You know, you can learn how to play them better and better. And inside of that, and inside of every style, there's a world-class strategy that you can play. So, you know, I see poker myself as like a expression of your creativity. If you know, work hard and believe in yourself and not kind of get sold that you have to be like everybody else, which I feel like a lot of people, you know, are, you know, it's like they're pushed down that rabbit hole because, you know, that's what they're told as a child. You know, you have to do this, you should do this. Your parents, you know, are telling you, the world is telling you, school is telling you. And I think poker is like one of those cool routes where it's like, nah, you know, I don't really want to do any of this stuff that you're, you know, selling me as like the story of what you should do. Let's like, you know, hop in, gamble, and, you know, find your own way of being and thinking.
It's also a true meritocracy.
Yeah.
You can't be good at poker via nepotism. You can't be good at poker via politics. You can only have a career in poker if you win. And if you consistently win.
I think you said a really great thing there too, was like, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, so you can never learn so much that you're just the ultimate player because you know everything. It's like, no, like the more you know you don't know so much more, and you have to kind of adapt on the fly to be a good player.
Yeah, and like if you're willing to just like laugh at yourself too, you know, if you look back at, you know, years before where you thought that you had this great grasp on things in life and yourself, and, you know, you had all these things solved, you look back later and you're like, wow, you know, how could I even think that?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
I had like poker only solved. So then it's like, you know, how could you hold yourself to this like perfect standard, which is unfair. A lot of people, I feel like, hold themselves to a perfect standard where it's like they're unwilling to make a mistake because they feel like that they have to be on this certain level where the only way to rise higher in anything is to make more mistakes than everyone else too.
That's how you learn.
Yeah, it's the only way to get there.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, you know, solved thing that you've got the story on your hand. You know, yes, you can get somewhere, but are you willing to fall over and over again?
Yep.
And like, you know, when everyone tells you that you're, you know, wrong, that you're crazy because you're different than their way of thinking, you know, what do? You know, because on one side, you know, if you want to be rational, you'll look at it yourself. If, you know, everyone's telling you, you know, this one maybe you don't see it. Okay, well, let me look at it at least. You say, okay, well, you know, maybe their experience is different. Am I going to go the way that like I feel is right, or am I going to let the noise take me somewhere else? And that's a hard thing to do too, because you know, in my own personal experience, you know, and it's a lot of just other people not understanding. You know, we all have our own unique life experiences, and especially if you have been willing to veer so far off of what's normal to people. You're such an alien to them. They can't understand, how you're thinking, how you got to here. But at the same time, you're almost like operating in like no man's land continuously. And I'm sure, you've had a lot of this experience yourself of, just, okay, I get to here, and sometimes it's all falling apart too. It looks like it's over, and just somehow you have to like pull yourself off the ground and believe that you can do it again.
Yeah. I mean, it's you mentioned something that I think is true in everything. If who you are is going to dictate how you see the game and how you see the world. So like, if many times in your life you dealt with people lying to you, right? You're going to be making way more hero calls than someone who never really experienced that type of thing, right? And so like, I feel that, and by the way, I feel that based on what you're saying, you're way more exploitative than GTO, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I assume you have a solid foundation and understanding.
Yeah, well, then there's a whole different like layer too, because you can play like an insane aggressive exploitative approach, or you could play like a solid exploitative approach where, you're picking spots that you think are better than the other ones. So I think that I'm somewhere on that scale. Well, the important thing is too, is you have to veer from like both sides of that scale too, of like being willing to operate in like a very aggressive way or a tight way. It's all like the situation dictates the stack that you have, the players that are at your table, the pay jumps that are going on. Is this a bigger are people already thinking about the money now?
Yeah.
Because when they're already starting to think about the money, then they're going to play much more solid. So then if everyone's playing much tighter at the table, you want to play much more aggressive. But then it's like a fine line always of navigating too, because if you step in shit once and lose a third of your chips, half of your chips or something, the whole flow of things just changed completely.
Yeah, because now you're on your toes now, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Well,
You're on your heels.
You're on your heels.
Now you can't make moves anymore.
Not the same, at least
Yeah.
anymore. People fight back more.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine being in a sword fight and having a giant sword, and then your sword breaks.
It chops in half.
You can still win a fight, but many more people are going to challenge you now that your sword's half the size.
You got to be a little bit more reserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be in like situations where you're getting a lot of your chips in, but then also you want to be super aggressive on the people who, will make the fold on the river, but then don't try to bluff like the wrong guy who's going to hero call you on the river.
Yeah.
And it's like navigating all these things too. So you have this big stack, and you're like prime position, so you can play super aggressive. But if you make one mistake versus the other like very good player at the table, now it's
sometimes you don't have to make a mistake. You can play perfectly and lose half your sword.
Yeah.
Which is what makes the game so so fun, I think.
Well, maybe that perfectly too was like what GTO told you what was right to do, but you got hero called by this guy, so was it really right to do?
Yeah.
That's like the thing of like, if you're trying to study something, then you're not like really in the mix of it. I think the other problem is too, if you're always like memorizing something instead of solving problems, when you wind up in a situation where you have to solve a problem and you're not sure, you don't really have the tools anymore. So where I feel like one of the things that was way in my advantage was a lot of people, almost everyone played online with this poker tracker, it's called, what it would do is it would just store all of the hands that you play versus every opponent, and it would give you a few numbers on how that person played. But there were ways that you could manipulate that tracker. Let's say, for example, if you played lots of games with someone, at least the things that I would think about something like, okay, if you play a range of $100 to $2,000 buy-in versus a set of players, essentially, they have all your numbers. So why not play absolutely insane in like 100 to 300 and then just play solid in 300 to 2,000, and their numbers are just all completely cooked. So that's like one thing that I would do. And then the other one is like, since everyone's playing online and they're looking at numbers, same thing. They're not really like having to solve problems on the fly with incomplete information. They have some information here that they're looking at, but then throw someone in the live arena, there's no information that they have. So they're used to thinking with information where you're used to thinking with no information. So essentially you're just in your comfort zone and they're in like no man's land.
Yeah. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna kind of through Magic. How'd you pick up poker?
Okay, so like Magic was kind of something where I liked the 15 and under playing. It was called like Junior Super Series, and there was an older one too. But once you get to 16 and older, it wasn't as appealing. You weren't playing for much money.
Really, there's more money when you're
no,
a
not
kid?
like more money. Just like when you're a kid, you just like you like this game.
Yeah.
Now, like you're like not a kid, so it's like you feel like you're a kid playing this game. But as soon as it was like, oh, okay, you're not a kid playing this game anymore, it's like I don't really care to play this game anymore. Actually,
So you just sort of phased out of it.
yeah.
Had you found poker at that point yet, or how did you
Yeah,
find
I played
poker?
I played a little bit of poker. I'm bad with years, but I think, at the end of my Magic, like playing, it was like one Magic player got second in the World Series main event, David Williams. I think it was in 2002 or 2003 or
I think
so.
that's about right.
It was one of those years, I think. Yeah, so then it was like, you're playing for thousands playing Magic, and you see this guy in the tournament, like, win millions and play against some guys who don't look like tough competitors also. So, well, first, one thing too, when you go to like the next division of Magic, it's like you're not playing for, there's 5 tournaments a year that the winner gets 40,000 or so. You're not really, there's no real potential for you to make a lot of money.
But as a 15-year-old, 40K is
yeah, but that's
insane.
like winning the tournament versus like a lot of, now you're competing versus like, 30, 40-year-old guys who are like,
yeah.
As a 15-year-old, you're playing for like 1,000 at a time, but you're just playing for fun. You don't care about like the money. It's just for competition. But then, you're able to work. So like money actually exists once you turn like 14, 15. So now like this kid thing that you were playing for fun, you kind of instead, you're interested, you're like 16 years old, you want to go to the gym, you want to be like a normal person, you're interested in girls now more. You're
Magic
like,
the Gathering wasn't getting too many girls.
it was just like a thing too where, you would go to this place and you'd see later at night the people who were playing Magic like as they're older, and they didn't have so much. In my perspective,
you're like, I don't want to grow up to be those guys.
Yeah. Maybe as like a hobby, if you have something else that you already built, then it's a fun thing. But if that's all you're doing and you're living in your mom's basement and you don't have much go, you're like, okay, this doesn't look like the right future for me.
Yeah, it wasn't a match.
So then it was like a lot of people who played Magic started playing poker, and I just got hooked instantly to playing poker. I started, I guess I started, I must have been 15, 16, playing in my grandpa's like backyard with some friends from high school. We'd play like $20 each. And then it just so happened that we go to this one guy's house who was like running a game this night, and we get to the house and there's just him and 2 people playing, and they've got like $50 each. So the game was pretty much completely dead. So I went up to the guy though, and I said, hey, if me and you did it together, we could have 1-2 tables Friday, Saturday night every time. Like, I'll bring a bunch of people here, then it'll be easier for you to bring people here because there's actually a game going. He had like a perfect house also. It was a nice sized house, and it was a basement that just had 2 poker tables, foosball, ping pong, a couch with TV.
Proper man cave.
We'd order pizza. It was perfect to like run a poker game at 15, 16. And I'm bad with like amount of time. I think it was for a few months maybe that it was running. And I guess his dad got pissed off that I was making money like from it. So one day he just like got in my face and screamed at me, said that I was like stealing money from the thing, when I think about it later, see, like I was like much better dealer than like the other guy whose house it was, but at the end of the night, it would be like triple in mine as it was what it was and is. And then I started to think, I'm like, well, it's always the person who accuses you of doing something who's actually doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And then they pull like this aggressive line, like you're actually doing it. So like when I put the pieces later, I was like, oh, he actually started stealing money like from the beginning. And then they just wanted me out of it. And once I was out of it, the game just died and it was killed. He couldn't run it. It was back to normal, and it's kind of like that, people get greedy for something themselves. They don't realize that you're actually putting in a lot of the work and effort, the reason why it's going around. So then it's like started playing poker really all day, every day. And by the time I was like out of high school, I just sat on Poker Stars and played 10, 12 hours a day. For the first year, I moved. My grandma passed away at that time. My grandpa was living in a house that was big by himself, and our house was small. Like my sister, and at that time she must have been 10 or 11. She had a small room. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll move in with grandpa. You can have my room. You need it anyway. Plus 5 kids and playing like poker in the living room in the house wasn't ideal. So I went, and his place was only a 5-minute drive away too. So it was close by, and I just started playing poker all day, every day. And in the first year of playing online too, I think I gained something like 60 pounds or so just ordering takeout and eating crap food. Before that, I went from like magic not caring, then like working out and getting into good shape to then playing poker online. And then it was a downhill from there. And I kind of stayed in poor shape from the beginning of my poker career until now that now I'm trying to improve and get better. But
you got to get his app. He's a trainer.
Come on in,
That's like one of those other things where you like think about it. You think about it now, and you're like, how did I take my health like zero serious at all, like through my whole life, and then all you can do really is just like laugh and be like,
I didn't at all. Until we found out we were going to have a kid. I mean, I've dropped 40 pounds in the last 3 years. And for me, that's like 20% of my entire body gone.
Crushing it.
I saw a thing. They're like questioning if you really are a chef now.
So sick.
On Rogan?
I think the hard part about that is, you're sitting at a table playing a lot of poker, so you're not really burning much calories. So everything that you eat, if it's like junk food or, takeout, like they're not really measuring how much oil they're putting in that and stuff. So it's very high calorie dense food while you're not burning much calories. So that just, compacts over the days, over the time,
over the years.
Eating
late at night is the worst time to eat. And like you'd play poker all day too. So then you'd have your meal at the end of the day and it'd be 10:30 at night.
And it could be fine though if you played poker and then you went into the gym and then you ate a big ass like sloppy meal, because that would just go towards your muscles for recovery.
Instead you're just sitting,
not
moving, and
so
now dumping it on yourself.
Exactly. So it all just compacts over time.
But I do feel like poker, similarly to skateboarding, it used to be about smoking and drinking and playing at night, and now it seems like there's been a bit of a sea change to people like doing yoga and having green juice at the table and, actually, taking care of themselves in the same way that, skateboarding went from drinking and doing drugs when you skate to exercising and stretching.
Well, you realize you want to be around for a long time. You want to continue to play poker, continue to win, continue to get that, that therapy, that, that rush that you get from it, so kind of fixing your nutrition, kind of like doing yoga, some strength training just kind of helps you prolong.
It also helps your brain.
Your career,
it helps your brain a lot.
Clarity.
When you're in shape, like you just think better. You can't, So when you were playing Poker Stars, were you playing tournaments back then too, or cash, or both, or?
Well, I guess when I first started playing poker, I was playing mostly cash, and then a few tournaments. They were having some back then, the big tournament on Poker Stars was like an $11 rebuy, and then it turned into like $162 nightly. And so Okay, so let's see. So the first bit that I played online, yeah, I would play like a bit of both. Then the first time I like spun up some money, so I guess I would just be playing. I'd build up a bit of money. I'd lose it. I'd play some like sit and goes, some cash, some tournaments. I built up like a roll one time, maybe at 20 years old. I built like 100. I had like maybe 100,000 on there from playing Limit Hold'em heads up.
It was limit back then, I remember.
Yeah, that was like the biggest game that they had on there. I think No Limit was maybe 3-6 or 2-4.
Are we? How old are you? Are we the same age?
38 now. I'm 86.
Okay, I'm 87, 38.
Okay,
So yeah, like when I turned 18, I started going to. I live in LA, so I would drive up to Chumash, every weekend and spend the weekend there. And back then there wasn't a no limit game. There was just, and they were still spreading 7-card stud and all those things. And so yeah, I remember back in the day when you just you spun up 100K on limit.
Yeah, like
That's
100,
beast.
200 limit, and then
That's
lost
so
it all
beast.
to this one guy.
Oh,
I remember his
shit.
name was like Valesco. He was from like Arizona or something. I wonder who like he was. Heads up player. So then it was like the first time I spun up like $1 million. But then it went kind of quick. Then
So when you got to 100K, was that off of just like an initial buy-in, like your initial
yeah,
kind of
putting like $50 on there or
And then
$100
just
and
sl-
spinning
and then-
it up.
Oh, wow.
losing it, putting 50 more, and then just like, and then eventually getting it, or
Yeah, I never really put like much because I had like I worked a little bit. I probably put a few $1,000 on there, I'd guess, like in that time. But yeah, I'd put like 50 or 100 or 200
at a time, yeah.
and like spin it up and then play bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember I was talking the first time I wanted to play like this 100, 200 game. You had to get approval and you had to talk to the poker room manager, this guy Lee Jones.
For Poker Stars.
Yeah, for Poker Stars. So I was like, I must have been 18, and he calls me on the phone, and he's like, your request that you want to play this 100, 200 limit game. It's like the amount that you have in your balance must have been like 2,000 or 3,000. You barely have like any bets really.
Yeah.
He's like, this money like can go very fast. I'm like, oh, don't worry, I got a lot more, behind that where I had no money behind that. I was just like gambling it all away.
Yeah.
And I think I lost it that night. Like I lost the balance. Then the next time I spun up, like I like kept spinning it up, and then I lost like that whole 100,000 balance. And
Sheesh.
then I was
How old were you when you'd spin up and then lose 100K?
I guess like 19 or something like 19.
And all this money you would get, you just basically worked, right, to make the money for these.
Yeah, like buying and selling magic cards a little bit, or like just bagging groceries at the corner shop.
Yeah. And then
I
you would just throw it into this game and
Yeah, I had like a bit of money too when I was not like a bit, just from working and saving it, because I wanted to put all the cash that I had in eBay when it first came out, and my mom kind of like convinced me like not to do it.
yeah.
I would have made. It's not like I would have made Bitcoin money or something, but I knew that was gonna do well. So then
Sick.
so then I just like put a little bit into poker. I would like spin it up, lose it all. Then at like 20 years old, I think it was the first time or second time I went to like the Poker Stars Bahamas tournament that they had every year, which that wound up turning into my bread and butter. But at 20 years old, I remember I had only like 10 or 15K roll or something when I went down there. So I'm pretty sure it was the only year that I was there that I didn't play the main event, which was a 10K buy-in. I played like a satellite or two, and I think I bubbled a satellite. I only had enough cash to like for a buy-in for the main, so I just didn't play it. And I met this one other guy who I'd played with a bit online, and hung out with him a bit that trip, and just wound up going home. Went home, like lost the bit of cash that I had. And when I was talking to him when I was home, he just said, "Oh, come out to LA. Like, I'll stake you in some games at the Commerce or online that you'll play." So I was like, "Okay, I have no cash and I have someone who will put me in games, like course,
Yeah.
flying out on the next flight to LA." So I go over to Commerce, and the first bit he staked me for some games online, and I won tournament or something, some heads up sit and goes, and I was up like 40,000. I just said, okay, I'll take my 20 and start gambling like in the poker games downstairs with it. And I remember in the first 3 sessions I went like break even. I like won one, lost one, like broke even in another. I lost this like 10K all in with ace, or chopped a 10K all in with like ace king versus ace 10 versus this guy like who just crazy overplayed it. But the guy who invited me out, he helped me think about how I thought about poker. Like as opposed to what cards you have, the real important thing is your opponent, what his cards are, and making the best play to either bring them along, to get them out. And actually in the next month and a half, I turned the 20K into like 1.1 mil myself or so.
Jesus.
So now,
just playing cash.
Just playing
at
cash
Commerce?
at the Commerce.
Wow.
Now like 21 years old.
Heavy.
It was a crazy run. I think I won 30 days in a row or 35 days in a row or something.
Was that just like the right side of variance, or was it bad players? Like
the games were good.
Yeah.
The games were very good.
I mean, I remember back. I wasn't playing at the stakes that you clearly were playing at.
Yeah, I went up to playing like 2,400 or something, I think, at some point in that month.
When you would lose, what would keep you going?
I just did it. I guess once you once you have like the streak going, you just don't want to end the streak.
You're just on fire,
even,
right?
I think then. So it's like if you're having a losing session, you might play, 16 hours, 20 hours, however many. Like you're staying in the casino too. So, until you're not feeling good, you could play. And the games were very good. There weren't a lot of good players, and I was just starting to, I feel like, get a flow of like crushing poker. So then like I didn't really lose any of it back there, but then I wind up losing like that bankroll in a few months or so.
Like the whole million plus?
Yeah, well, what happened, a big part of that was I let the guy who invited me out and who was staking me at first, he told me that he had this money on this, and he was a phenomenal poker player. It seemed to me like he was winning a lot. And since he helped me too get to there, now I'm 21 sitting with like $1 million. Like he kind of showed me like the road of how to get great at poker. We discussed like some hands. He would just, it was more about the way that he thought about the game. We wouldn't even really discuss hands. We'd discuss like situations and, his way of thinking, which was way ahead of his time, which, set the road for me. So I thought he was an amazing player, and he was for sure. So at one point, I have $1 million. I told him that he could actually, yeah, that's how I lost this roll. That's why in my head I was like, where did this money go? Because I remember where like all the money went in all these, runs of losing millions.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can I not remember where this one went? I started letting him use the money that I had, and the deal was that our deal actually was whatever he lost, he would pay me half of, because he told me he had this investment account with money in it. So otherwise, I wouldn't have staked him with all my money, like with the $1 million. Like even then, I put up half of my what I thought was half of my money because I thought he was going to win. He lost the whole $1 million and then said that he didn't have the money to pay either in the investment account. So I wind up losing my first $1 million bankroll
without actually losing it.
Without losing myself. And
so? I have a couple questions. What does that feel like? And how does that compare to losing, like the first time you spin it up to 100K in your teens or early 20s, and then you lose that 100K? Like, was it gut wrenching? Are you going home like crying yourself to sleep? How does that feel?
Well, I remember like this one actually. I remember vividly because I guess I usually would talk to my mom, and maybe it had been a few days since I talked to my mom. And I remember her calling me and picking up, because I remember being at the Commerce in this time. And she just said, hey, are you doing all right? And I'm like, rough week or whatever. But, just give me a few days. Like, I'll be fine. And so I remember, like, it's not like I would, sweat it off in 1 second and be like, oh, whatever. But on one side, to get very good at poker, you can't really put a value on money.
Yeah.
Is one of the, you can then try to separate them later in life, but when you're in this moment, you really can't think about the money at all. So when you're young and, you learn these skills, like separating yourself from money at the poker table, of course, this seeps into your life. And, you're way too separated from money in actual life, where it's like, it's all, play money almost.
Sure.
Where it's like, oh, well, it comes in easy. Even if it's not easy, where you put in all of this for, then when you win like some big thing, it seems like, oh, kind of easy.
Kind of comes and goes.
Just won $1 million here, 2 million here, 3 million here. This money, because you think too when you're young and, money's coming, you think that it's, going to continue like that until one day it just kind of crashes. So I'd say I always have had this skill where I can separate myself, or I guess it's like not deeming money as the most important thing. So, and then when you have this experience where money comes and goes like so easily and frequently, it's very different than other people, and how they see money. So,
but is that a thick skin that's built up over time, or is that, did you already have that mindset like right out the gate?
It's like a game plan that I guess I kind of had like out the gate, because early on I was saying that I wanted to be the best at poker. So the things that I was like aware of that you needed to work on to be the best at poker, I was very
stability. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like him and Doug kind of look at money the same way, you know what I mean? Whereas like me,
well, you have
losing that much, I would be like, no, like that'd be like,
if you lost $100, you would do that.
Oh yeah, $10. like I'd lose my mind, So like that's really smart of you to be able to like separate it, especially when you're playing high stakes like that.
You have to treat it like a game. Well, because in a game, your only focus can be making the best decision that you can in the moment.
You can't be thinking about
everything else is like noise that you kind of have to, if you can, keep it all out.
I feel like at 21, if I had $1 million plus, like I'd be like, oh, I'm good. Like, go get a house on an island, like go eat coconuts and chicken for the rest of my life.
I wish I had more. I wish I had some more of a middle ground where I found somewhere in the middle of me and you, and operate it. Even if it was just a little bit etching from me, I'll take that. It doesn't even need to be so far.
But think about this though: if poker is the passion. If you had $1 million in your account at 21 skateboarding, you wouldn't have quit skateboarding.
No, yeah,
right. You still would have done the thing.
Well, it's like the goal. I mean, it was crazy, but at 17 years old, I was telling my friends that I was going to become #1 in the world in poker, and I don't know where that came from. What kid said that and believed in it.
I said that and believed it, but well, actually, that's not true. I said that I was going to be the youngest main event winner because my birthday is the end of March, and it's always, like I would have been like 21 in 2 months.
Yeah.
But then I never became the.
That's a hard one to shoot for. That's like a 1 in 8,000 thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 8,000 back then though.
Oh, it was less.
Yeah, back then it was
500 people or something in that one.
So how did you? When did? And maybe you didn't even. But did you make like a transition from playing everything to just playing tournaments, or are you still playing everything, or
now I just play mostly tournaments. Well, cash is like a different, I've played in a few like big cash games that they invite you for, but cash is more like a private game setting that if you're like a great poker player, people who are running these private games don't want you in their game. So that's like kind of the funny thing where these guys, some guys will say like they're great poker players when they're only playing cash games with like losing players.
Yeah.
So it's like
they won't let you in.
No. You won't let anyone who like knows what they're doing in. Like, okay, let's see if you're good at poker. You're a great cash game player, super deep. You play tons of super deep. First off, I never play super deep. So if you're this great someone who's like good at poker in another context, should be able to come in and play in your version of poker, and you can showcase your skill of how good you are.
For sure.
So did you feel like when you started really concentrating on tournaments that
Well, it was like that's
helpful.
where like the biggest game. That's where it's like the biggest game is that there's no politics involved. Like anyone can go sign up for a tournament and play these high stakes games, and there's nothing else that you really like have to do. So I guess it was like trends with. So like when I did it at Commerce, I was playing only cash games. Then like after I lost that bankroll, the next big bankroll I actually spun up like 50K to 3 million in 2 months.
Jeez.
Playing heads up PLO. I'd never played a hand the heads up PLO at the start of this spin up. I was playing like a bit of heads up no limit, but still never even like that I was really crushing heads up no limit. I would build up some money, lose it, build it up, lose it. Then like I don't know, PLO was getting popular, and at that point it was like pre-solver, so it was you were playing man versus man, mind versus mind. So it's like fundamentally I probably wasn't, a great PLO player. I hopped in my first hand and was just playing on the fly, but the other people were learning it too. They weren't studying, so it was like mind versus mind. That was a cool one. That was losing the first million, I'd say like hurt a little bit the next this will be perfect for the podcast too, because it's like, so I lose that million. Pretty much it's like exactly that. I build up maybe 50K, 100K, maybe 200K, nothing like substantial where it's in like the million again. I would lose it here. I would build it up. I was just like surviving, let's say, and it was the end of the World Series, and I had 50K total, and I was like, I'm just going to gamble a bit and try to spin something up. WSOP is over. I don't need money for tournaments or anything. So like, I'm just going to play heads up, and somehow spun up 50K to, I'm pretty sure it was 3.5 million in 2 months.
Wow.
Like just playing heads up, like 1 versus
Live
1
or-
PLO.
or-
No, all on full tilt mostly. Like a little bit on stars, mostly almost all on full tilt. Playing versus like everyone. Of that like 3.5, I think I beat Ivy for like 800K to 1 million, like somewhere in there. I was playing 500, 1,000 versus him heads up.
Jeez.
Then then I started like staking people more, where I would buy them in for live tournaments, mostly like big live tournaments, and just got absolutely slaughtered. Where I think in 6 months of the three, well, I was, especially if you have an entourage of people where you're paying for dinners and other stuff too, you start spending like a lot of money also. So probably in those 6 months, I might have spent, a few 100,000 or so for the first time. Then I lost a bunch staking. And once I started losing a bunch staking, like I think I was down $1 million, and I hadn't played heads up in a while. And I remember when I played heads up, I just my mind like just wasn't clear. So I lost like maybe 400 or 500 of that there, then just kept staking and losing more and more of it there.
Oh.
So I went from that first time I had like a I built $1 million before, so I'll call it more substantial than $1 million. I had like 3.5. I lost it all in 6 months. Wow. So in 6 months I lost it all, and I got to the point where I owed different friends of mine somewhere close to like the 500K range.
Oh wow.
Because when I was like getting lower and lower, once I lost all my money and then started like borrowed a bit from friends, I would try to play smaller cash games like 10, 20 and 5-10, but I just didn't have the mind to do it.
It's a different game.
It was just different. My head just wasn't there to grind, because the thing is, it's all like a grind.
Yeah.
So you have to really be like calm, patient, and just like ready to grind. Just like kind of life, I feel like if you're ever trying to shoot something too quick, like it's like, yeah, you can run up the mountain a little bit, but you're going to fall down like farther than you were before. You have to pace yourself, take it like little by little. And in my mind then, because I just lost like all my money, I didn't have the strength to play that. I don't even really remember that I was like so demoralized. It was like, I was enjoying playing high stakes. It's like I was enjoying, playing high stakes, having fun. Then when I was like going down, I asked a few people if they would stake me at like 25.50 or 10.20, and they said no. I was surprised at it, because the people who didn't want to play me at 2,400 didn't want to stake me at 25.50. I'm like, that doesn't really, you think you're the king of the castle. You weren't playing versus me, a minute ago. Now you don't want to like stake me in these like much. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Guess I got to build it myself. So then I get to the point where it felt to me like my borrowing power was all dying. So it was like, I forget, did I owe 400, 450, 500, somewhere in that range. But I remember getting like 5K off someone and feeling like, shit, your well is like running kind of dry, like urgency, like you have to start winning. So then it was like a switch went off in my head where it was like, okay, you have to start winning. You can't like, just go gamble this at one place. So that was really the first time I started being a tournament player, because I had, 3K, 5K in my account. And in my head, I'm like, okay, what do you have to do now? You have to start just winning. You're on this trajectory of just losing. So first thing you've got to do is you've got to change it and win. So it's like, okay, where can you win at? So I was able to mentally go from 6 months before I was playing $100,000 buy-in heads up versus someone, winning, like crushing. 6 months later, I'm playing $20 tournaments. Yeah. And somehow I don't have like the thinking like, this sucks and, my life sucks and all these thoughts that you could have, I'm a loser. I'm like playing the smallest games here. I'm just like, no, I guess I still have this, dream that I want to become #1 poker player. Yeah. And, here's the time where you've got to show like what you've got. And for me, I think also I'm lucky in the fact that I always equated my own success to helping out my family, helping out friends. So it's like always in the toughest moments, I guess what then came like from me was like, even if you want to give up on yourself, if you give up on everyone that you care about. Yeah. So then it's like, because I have like, that feeling like close family, like with my mom and dad and grandma and family, it's like, I wouldn't allow myself to get those kind of thoughts because I put it with like giving up on them.
Yeah. There's failure is not an option.
Yeah.
Because you fail for your whole family.
Yeah, exactly. Even like, and a lot of these times, you really want to just like, fucking disappear from the world. Sure. Yeah. You're like, I just want to like go into a cave for a while and have no one like bother me at all. And you're like, well, that's not going to bring you back to where you want. But at the same time, you have to give yourself some time. So I remember, not in this one, but in like the next. Yeah, so I have too many, build up $1 million or a few million, and
so
lose
crazy,
it all
dude.
And get negative again. And
sometimes I would say the most that it would take is like a week of like disconnecting.
Have you ever just like chucked a couple millions to the side and just like save it?
Well, that doesn't really exist as a poker player, because like when you save it, when you run out, like, okay, well, what are you going to do?
Tap back in. Yeah.
There's no real...
Well, you could buy a house. You could,
Yeah, but then, when you're young, you don't have like these responsibilities, I guess, and more. I think I also equated, since I was always good at making money, it seemed, and not like that's a great thing. It was like, I always had the thought that no matter what, I could get myself like back from whatever situation I got myself in. That didn't necessarily have to be a test to myself. Yeah. Like, okay, well, let's see how you do in this worse situation than you've dealt with before. Let's, calling it in, no problem. We've got that for you.
So was that kind of the rock bottom of your career? Like losing 3.5, actually losing 4 with a 3.5, and then getting 5K. And I mean, I know how the story ends. So the 5K, you obviously spun that up, but was that sort of the rock bottom of your career, would you say?
There was like one time after, I don't know about, well, because if you talk like financially wise, like it's one of those, but I can't remember, I don't remember like really being so down. It was just like, I don't know, I guess I just like very quickly can, change kind of like my own story to like, well, when I was a kid, my favorite movie was Gladiator. So it's like, and for me, like Gladiator, you know, here's the guy who's like strongest, like general, you know, top of the world, good person. The king, you know, wants to make him king instead of his own son. And, you know, not by his own decisions, but by like bad luck of sorts, you know, it goes from like that to being a slave and having to fight for his life. So it's like, for me, I kind of always equated myself as like a gladiator in the arena. And it's like, you know, okay, well, if he can take it, then you can take it. And, you know, are you going to like cry about spilt milk, or are you going to like clean it up? And, you know, and in that moment, it was like, yeah, the 5K, I built it back up, but it was a journey. You know, it wasn't like it was going quick. In my mind, it's like, okay, you have to win 300 to 500 a day. So you start winning 300 to 500 a day. Then you play a bit bigger tournaments. Then you know, maybe win a 1K tournament for 150K or so, let's say. But you have, you know, you owe 500 to your friends. So of that 150, you know, 130 you pass right away. And, you know, you've got 20 to build back up again. And now you've got to, okay, you know, 500 grind. A day again. But, well, and then somehow maybe, how long was it? It took me from that maybe 6 to 9 months to build back up to $1 million again, in like that slow grind of like moving up stakes. And the thing, I never like I guess took like the money part too serious, and I thought I ran bad in staking early on. And I think first off, I like didn't really build it like it was a serious business. I kind of just threw money at it. And I guess in my mind, since I thought the poker was easy to win at, it would be easy for other people to win at. But then it winds up coming in that same issue where like these were people who thought that they already knew about poker. So like their container was already full. Yeah. You know, if I would have went a different approach and picked up Magic players and taught them how to play poker and staked them, I would have been the most successful like staker in history, as opposed to the least successful staker in history.
Really quick, for the folks listening in, what is staking?
Staking is like putting up all the money for someone else to compete in an event. So usually how it would work is like you're staking this player for all the games that they play online and live. So like if they're playing online, you transfer them some funds online. If they're playing a live tournament, you buy them into a live tournament. And usually how it works is them, when they win, whatever amount that they're down at the time, they pay that back first, and then you go 50-50 on the winnings.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like if you have
like interest,
if you have a good poker player that you're staking, it can be a good deal for both people. The thing is, most people just buckle under pressure.
So for example, tomorrow I'm playing the main at the WPT here.
Okay.
If he was going to stake me, he'd give me $1,100.
Yeah.
If I lose, we lose. But if I win $1 million, he gets $500K.
Yeah, but either way, you still owe him $1,100 though, or no?
Not really. No. Only he owes in like terms of his action. Let's say. So if you're like, so it then becomes this a tough slope. So like,
because you're kind of it's like
you're risking all the money yourself,
because you're giving.
So if things
like
go bad, you lose 100%. But if they go well, you win 50%.
It's like investing in a business. It's like, I'm going to give you startup capital.
Okay.
If you go bankrupt, there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
But I get 50% of your company.
But I've seen even too people who were like operating it more like a business, teaching the players, like having some good players. The economics just wind up being very bad about it, because when people start to lose, no matter how good they are fundamentally at poker, it starts to mess with their mind, especially if they haven't really lost before, their confidence. So then like you're involved in all these people's bad runs. And a lot of times, you know, if they don't have like the mental fortitude and perseverance, they'll probably never get out of it.
For sure.
So like you wind up now losing 100% of all these like bad investments and winning 50 in the good ones. But then the problem comes too, then the good ones, they'll like win and probably go off on their own also. So you'll only get like a win or 2 wins of theirs or so, where you're then taking all the losses for the other. Nowadays, practically no one stakes anyone. This was like a bad American business that went on for
back in the
for
day.
too long. Now, like people sell action of tournaments at like a markup.
Okay.
So like, you know, let's say you're playing $100,000 tournament, and the person who's investing in lots of players thinks that you have like a 6% return on investment, like in this specific tournament, they'll pay you like 3 cents of that 6.
Okay.
So like the buy-in is, let's say 100,000. And if that person's buying 10% is an easy number to look at. If they're paying like 1.03, they're paying you 10,300 for 10,000 worth of action. So you're getting like a little bit extra
Okay.
from like the buyer, and also the buyer needs to think that it's a good investment, that they're making a few points as well. But then it doesn't get you stuck inside when, you know, this guy's down 500K, you've got to put him in everything. He's like not in a good mindset. You're screwed because you're like, the only way I can get my money back is by investing more in this person. And usually you're putting bad money on bad money and it just doesn't go out well. So it's like so many times I caught myself there stupidly thinking, you know, oh, well, if this person wins big here, I get all of it, but they just don't
Buckle on their pressure.
unless if they have the mindset and put in the effort to actually get back, you know, then they have no chance, and then you're just taking like whole loss. So that was like my worst vice by far, was staking.
Really?
Yeah, by far.
Did you get like a thrill out of it, or was it?
Yeah, I think I got like a sweat out of it too, and it was more just about like, because money was coming like easily, and I thought poker was easy in my perspective. It's like, you know, these people wind up becoming your friends, your friend of your friends and stuff, and you hang out with them and you're winning. So you have like almost like entourage that you're staking in these things. You expect in your head that they're going to win, but
they don't.
They weren't really, you know, I stake some good players too, but most of them just, they didn't plan to win, so they didn't win. You know, I planned to win consistently my whole career. I guess I forgot about that part. You know, I'm like, oh, you know, people should win at poker. It's like,
but you can't.
You
all
mean
win.
if they're like you and they dedicate their whole life in every waking moment to thinking about poker and improving poker, then they should win. Not the person who's like lazily thinking that, you know, the only difference between you and them is luck, which winds up being a lot of people.
Yeah.
It seems to be a very recurring theme that the people who rise to the top are ones who absolutely obsess all day, every day. It's the only thing they think about, the only thing they want to do.
It's like, you know, when the people asked me before, like, you know, what does it take to become, you know, #1 all-time poker player, wanting it more than everybody else?
Yeah.
You know, what does that mean? It doesn't mean words. You know, it means that every moment of every day, of every, you know, up and down, it means that when, you know, everything's going well, that you're taking poker serious too, because, you know, if you think that you're too good and too cocky, the next wave of smart people are going to come and, you know, knock you down. There aren't many people who survived high stakes poker for
A long time.
10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Because it's a changing game.
Yeah, I could probably count very few.
Yeah, and like the tournament scene, I don't know if there might be some 10-year or so. There aren't really, you know, when I think about it, there weren't people really playing high rollers when I started playing high rollers that are still playing high rollers today. So I think apart from me in the trajectory of my poker career, there's been no one who's
And you're still getting it after it, huh?
Yeah.
You're still going after it?
Well, it's like one of those things where it's like ingrained into me almost.
Just part of your life.
Like
You know,
you'll do it regardless.
Well, it's like there are some things too, for sure. So it's like sometimes if I'm not playing poker for a bit and I then go play like poker, I'll see that there's a different way that some very good players are thinking and playing specific hands. So I might be a step behind in like some aspects, but then you learn and adjust to it too. So, you know, I'm definitely not saying that I'm the guy who's the best fundamental player now, like playing, you know, 4 or 5 like stops a year, much less than everybody else. But I think that I have so much of like a base information about poker and about the game and information and how to approach different ones and how people think and play. So of course that changes. So you have to adapt that. But I feel like I have the like skills to compete at the highest level.
Sick.
Of like the base of all the information I have, where, you know what the book said that like 10,000 hours to become a master at something. Like I played poker like 100,000 hours or something. So it's kind of weird. And some of these other things I've read too, it's like some of it's automatic. Like I'll play poker and other people will think and crunch numbers, and for me it's kind of just a flow.
Yeah.
It's like my like higher self has already like solved for
In flow state.
in poker I just find myself in like in a flow state, having
Yeah.
fun. I love the game. I love competing with people, you know, other very intelligent people, especially a lot of times they're sure that they're better or smarter than you, so I love that
good.
like layer of it also.
Yeah.
Well, some people they'll go to the grave with that thinking, no matter how much of like results say something else. You know, they'll commit. I'm learning now too, it's so easy that if you have a fixed way of thinking, you can convince yourself that that's true.
Yeah.
Almost for sure. It's like the same thing with, you know, you ask Google two sides of the same thing, it'll give you reasons for why both sides are true.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's almost like the danger of, you know, knowing a bit of something, you know, then you're like fixated that what you know is right,
Yeah.
where like, hey, most likely it's not,
Yeah.
you know, and then what? Now you're on the wrong track you think that you're on this mountain, you're not even there.
As we typically start to wrap up, we have a question that we ask everyone, and it's the same question, and it is, given the opportunity to design your life 10 years from now, like literally like magic lamp on the table, genie comes out, you get to completely design your utopian future. What are you doing 10 years from now, and what's your life look like? I mean, you're already at the top, so how much higher
Well, it's
do you
interesting,
go?
you know, it's changed so much, like of, you know, how I see things and what's important. I would say now, you know, my thing, 10 years, where do I want to be? I want to have like a lush sanctuary of a house that, you know, is growing its own food, you know, has like plants and flowers around, maybe some chickens, few kids running around, you know, maybe a beautiful like outdoor kitchen that I've been cooking more actually. It's something that I never did. I enjoy cooking for my family.
You're describing my new restaurant, which is near where we live. So
well, there you go. So then it sounds like, you know, our goal of the future is similar. You know, then if I can be, you know, involved in few projects that I feel like have a good output and are helping people, yeah, I don't really need much for myself. You know, that's like paradise right there for myself. You know, a trip, a vacation or two a year, you know, a healthy, happy family on our like land, growing our own stuff. And I would have never imagined that that's what I would say, you know, a few years ago. But that seems like, you know, the dream to me, you know, a happy house, eating good food, you know, living how you want to.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming in. I feel like we could have gone for several more hours. We should do this again.
Yeah, we can have a more prepared follow up. You know, we can get more into you know, and losing it all and finding the willpower to build it back. But you know, as we wrap it up, I'd just say, you know, the things that are necessary, you know, to do anything great is believing in yourself and never giving up, and never letting anyone convince you that you can't. Because if you believe that you can and become the person that you need to become to make that happen, I think that, you know, big dreams are possible. So always believe in yourself really is most important thing. And you know, also try to be as good of a person as you can be, and as aware, you know, like, you know, these are things, you know, we're never going to be like completely aware. So as you get older and you reflect back on time, you realize that you always could have responded in a better way, that you could have, you know, been better. But also, you know, as the same with learning, never use these things to bring you down. Like there are always two sides of that coin. You can look at mistakes that you made, or, you know, ways that you would rather be in the past. You know, the thing is, you can't change that. It's over. You know, the only thing that you should look at is, you know, now you see things this way, and if you can incorporate that way into being into your, you know, now self, then that's the best that you could do. And, you know, that's what you should focus on, and, you know, not be your own worst enemy of, you know, who you would have liked to be before. You know, focus on who you want to be now and be that person, you know, put in the effort, the work that it takes necessary to be that. And, you know, sometimes you realize later that maybe you didn't even want to be that, and be willing to, you know, go back to the drawing board, rewrite how you think, rewrite how you are, and just try to keep that, you know, base thing of being, you know, a good human as much as you can.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. Micro adjustments. That's what we talk about all the time. Thank you again so much for coming in.
For sure. It was fun.
Yeah, we're gonna keep following along. That's a wrap on today's episode. Hit subscribe now if you want to follow along. We have some awesome guests lined up that we sit down with. Make sure you follow the Not a Damn Chance podcast on socials at NADC Podcast. We'll see you next week.